Africans have gambled away just under 260 billion rand in the past year. The year figure is set to increase as well during the upcoming holidays. Gambling authorities are urging people to manage their money responsibly. The impact of excessive gambling has far-reaching implications. Well, let's get some more information on this and find out just how big a problem this is. With me, Baby Tyawa from the National Gambling Board with us on the show this morning. And Ms. Tyawa, good morning to you. Why for the National Gambling Board is so much money a bad thing if you're making all this money?
First, I want to say thank you indeed for inviting us. Also correction that this industry has made about 19 billion, not 260 billion.
Thank you.
And secondly, that the importance of the industry itself, since it was legislated, it contributes about 0.85% into the national GDP, and it's the second highest owned revenue for provinces. So it is making money for the government and for the country. However, it has got bad impact when you're a compulsive gambler and you begin to lose money on the basis of how you use your gambling or how you use that money in gambling. That becomes a problem.
But you always lose money when you're gambling. I don't gamble
Yes,
at all.
indeed you do. That is why it's called gambling. It's a game of chance, so you can't play around. And you take a risk once you do that. All we're encouraging people to do is spend that money carefully and as well as spend it elsewhere. If you have excess money, do spend it, but remember that gambling is an entertainment. It is not to be used to pay to get extra funds to pay off debts. So it's not to go into gambling and augment your salary. It is not for that. It is purely for entertainment, and you must have some self-control. We do have a number on a program for those who have problems with gambling, which is 0800 006 008.
We'll put that
and
number
it's
up
a
again.
free counselling line.
We'll put the number up again at the end of the show, Ms. Tyawa, as well. At what point, someone watching at home, they have a family member, a dad, a mom, for example, who enjoys gambling when they go out for dinner, for example. At what point in your experience does it become a problem? What's that line in the sand?
There's a way in which we assess it. For instance, we do a national prevalence study, patterns of gambling in South Africa, and we use the Canadian index on problem gambling. It asks questions like you would get questions on Alcohol Anonymous. Do you feel stressed when you've lost money? Do you feel like you want to go back and regain the money? Do you use other monies for other things, for gambling? Do you repetitively go to the same place and use more than you can afford? And once there is an indication that you're doing that, you must actually know that you do have a compulsive character towards gambling. But we've also discovered through clinical research that a lot of people who are compulsive gamblers do have other elements of depression. They also, then that becomes a predisposition or an exit from something that you're suffering naturally.
The problem's going to come in as well that those who deal with an issue like this might not recognize. It's all going well to tell me what the problems are, but people might not recognize that they have an issue. If people were to call this number, this 0800 006 008 for help, if it was a family member, could they somehow force this family member with a potential problem to seek help? Can you do that?
You cannot force. It's like any psychotherapy. You cannot force a person to go into psychotherapy. However, you do have an opportunity to report as a third party. The National Gambling Board has an exclusion register where you can begin to report your family member that they are having problems with gambling and you have evidence to that effect. There are family courts. There's a route to go around it. But you can actually report a third party.
I've heard this in the past, and perhaps while I've got you in, I thought it would be interesting to ask you this. Is it true that you can have people stopped from going to certain casinos? If they've got a gambling problem, they can be prevented from actually entering the premises?
Correct. You can, but it's voluntary. So once a person is excluded, we have registered where we put them on, and then that information is distributed to all provinces because this is legislated at a provincial level. And you get excluded, you get your ID photo, and that gets put up on all casinos. Although some people do sneak around it, but
sure they do. They're dealing with the problem. A huge pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for coming in. Just to give us your thoughts on what's happening. Baby Tyawa, the National Gambling Board CEO.